How many of you are cutting out booze? Who's only having mocktails in the back? Yep. Who's vibe coding this year? We have any vibe coders? Who got the death card? How is your sustainability program going? Yep, there we go. There we go. I see you. All right. All right. Now, we are going to do, so now that you all have your futures, I think we're going to do another something that's kind of fun. We are going to do a debate. And you know what they did for me? I asked to do this debate, and they gave me a buzzer. Oh, come on. Ready? Let's try that again. There we go. All right. Let's send them on up.
Please welcome partner at Altimeter Capital, Thomas Reiner, and Skift Head of Research, Seth Borko, for a debate moderated by Skift Editor-in-Chief, Sarah Copen.
All right, I have always wanted to do this. I am so excited. We are going to do a great debate, and we are going to do it on our megatrends. I've got a timer. I've got a buzzer. Here are the rules. I'm going to ask the question.
Notes. I have my wealth card.
Oh, yeah. Which one did you get?
Wealth.
Oh, that's not fair. Okay.
Got temperance. He gets money. I just don't get the drink. It's tough.
There you go. Okay. So the rules are, I ask the questions. You've each got 2 minutes to answer. We're going to have a fun, fast-moving debate here. So without further ado, the first question is, does AI mean that OTAs are done? Are the glory days over? Thomas, let's start with you. 2 minutes.
I would not say that they are done or dead, but the glory days are certainly over. If you think about a company or a business or anything, it goes through a life cycle. You go through, it's new, it's nascent, everyone's getting excited about it. You go through like that hyper growth stage when Booking was adding new hotels every single year, when take rates were expanding, when margins were expanding. You go through a stabilization phase. And as we enter the AI supercycle, we're beginning the long trail down as take rates get compressed, as margins get compressed, as the OTAs generally get pushed down the funnel and down the value stack in the same way that the GDSs did in the 90s. Or I think a better example is the Yellow Pages. The Yellow Pages were a business that were structurally and permanently impaired. And the public markets recognize that. The terminal values and the multiples those businesses traded at went way down. The stocks never recovered. But the reality is, if you look at the fundamentals of those businesses, they continued to grow free cash flow for a number of years and continued to exist. And I mean, even now, you can probably find a Yellow Pages online or .com. But that's the exact same thing that will happen over the course of the next 5, 10, 15 years for the OTAs. There's a situation, there's a scenario where they can still provide value, but does an OTA deserve 15 or 20% of gross bookings from any of the hotel operators here if they're just facilitating payments or facilitating customer service as opposed to being the point of discovery and where consumers make decisions and see their options? In the age of AI, the route that consumers go to book, discover, figure out what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, and facilitate that booking is the reality going to be through OpenAI or Google through Gemini. And we're seeing the proliferation of AI tools. We're seeing the proliferation of more accurate data. Oh, that's a very harsh buzzer.
Yes.
It's a real debate.
Yes.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Seth.
Yeah.
2 minutes. Are the glory days?
Do I get a rebuttal afterwards?
No.
Only if I mention him by name, right? If I mention him by name, he's allowed to respond. Something like
Yeah, it's gonna be like a presidential debate where we stay on the first question the entire time.
Now, what I really want to talk about is tax. No. Okay. No. I think that OTAs are not done for. I think that they have many, multiple, very important and very deep moats. I think it's interesting, Thomas, that you said, well, should you just get paid for helping travelers facilitate payments, make decisions, and book travel? But that's exactly what travel agents get paid for. And I know what you're going to say if you had a chance to respond. They have been in decline. But the general margin structure of travel agents has kind of remained the same. there's huge value in facilitating payments, in facilitating curation, and facilitating selection. I would also add that this idea of a top layer of there's going to be this extra new layer. We're going to have to go through the ChatGPT layer. We're going to have to go through. They already do that. They already go through Google. It's not like these OTAs truly own their customers. And even in this environment where they've had to not own the top of the funnel, they've continued to grow. I think that we continuously underestimate how hard it is to build inventory, to build scale. Payments is actually hard. Comparison shopping is actually hard. Maybe hardest of all, speaking of government, is regulatory, having to operate in 150 different countries. And quite frankly, there's just inertia. I mean, the travel industry, you won't like this as a VC, you won't like this argument. There's just so much inertia. There's organizations and companies that I think should have been dead 20 years ago that are not dead and continue on. I would also just, I don't know. I think that there's also an amount of trust. And I know it sounds crazy to say that I trust an OTA because, I mean, okay, we get it. But I sometimes trust them more than I would trust a random hotel in the middle of nowhere. I want to be able to know that if I show up and that hotel is crap, we have wonderful hoteliers in this room. Don't have a single bad hotelier in this room, but they are out there. I want to know that when I file a chargeback or when I file a complaint that I'm talking to a company based in America. So I think there's still a role for them. I totally agree with you, Thomas, that AI is going to transform their funnel, their marketing spend, and the industry, but I see a role for them.
I think we're going to skip rebuttal and go on.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll be shorter next
I mean,
time.
I
We
think
can
the
reply.
only thing.
Go ahead.
The only thing I would say is that nobody ever said, I wish there were more travel agents and that's how I could book everything during the age of the peak of OTAs and Google, in the same way that no one will ever in 5 years say, oh, I wish I could go back to booking.com and look at all these links.
No argument there.
Okay, question number 2. Will generative AI become the primary front door for travel booking, Thomas?
Oh, I gotta go first every time?
We'll see.
Okay.
Surprise you.
Yes. I mean, I think Skift's own presentation said that according to Adobe, I think 29% of consumers are already using generative AI for travel discovery and search. The reality is that if you look at the size of ecosystems, ChatGPT OpenAI has 800 million weekly average users. That's bigger than any individual or even the cumulative sum of users using OTAs. Consumer preference is already, they want to use either in chat or natural language through voice mode. They want to discover, figure out, and eventually book their travel using AI, as opposed to looking at Google and going to 10 blue links and then eventually clicking the ad by mistake and going to booking.com and seeing all the listings. It's just like not a great consumer experience. Over the course of super cycles, you think about, we had the age of the internet and it brought everyone onto the internet. That became the predominant way that people booked travel. The easiest way to do that, given the infrastructure at the time, was Google directing to an OTA that was dedicated and had the supply and did all the work. As we move into, and we moved into mobile and the rise of apps, as we move into the age of AI, where over these cycles, you also notice that like the number of independent actors within the ecosystem declines. There were 170,000 travel agents before the internet. That's down like 70%. Then we went to 10 different search engines, and that became Google. We had a bunch of different OTAs, and that became essentially 2, but some other regional players. Moving into AI, you essentially have 2 dominant players in OpenAI, ChatGPT, and you have Gemini. And those are where all the eyeballs are. Those are where the eyeballs are going to stay. And it provides a better consumer experience than, like I said, looking at 10 blue links on Google. I like how the timer is facing.
Oh, yeah.
That's not fair. You're right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
I'm just counting down.
Yeah.
How long till Thomas?
Seth, generative AI going to be the front door?
I think that the front door is always going to be friends and family and word of mouth. I think that that's probably the most important channel. We've done some research, and offline experiences are some of the most important factors in how people decide where and when they want to go. Family and friends is number 1. Past travel experience is number 2. The kind of trips that you've taken, the kind of trips that you like. After that comes Google, and I can't argue with my very elegant opponent here that Google is at serious threat from AI. I think that AI probably does overtake the Google and the meta search world. And then the number 4 that we have in our survey, which I think is only going to grow, is social media. I hate to admit it, I plan far too many trips on YouTube. Consider me influenced. And so I think it's not that, like, does AI become the front door? I think AI becomes the new operating system instead of Google for search. But search, even today, arguably isn't the front door, that it's part of a trap. There's no one front door. I reject the premise of the question, which isn't a great debater thing. But
Hey.
what do you
Right.
think? You've got some time for a rebuttal, Thomas. What do you think?
No.
Oh, no. Oh.
No. No, I'm in charge here. Okay.
Disconnected.
Thank you.
Trying to.
Okay, we're going to move on to the third question. You are up first, Seth, this
Okay.
time. Okay. Is so-called zero-click travel marketing an existential threat to the industry?
No. No. Zero-click marketing, I mean, it's definitely a threat if you say, I don't know, run a search engine based on advertising sales based on people clicking on your stuff. It's certainly a threat if you are a chief marketing officer who relies 100% on getting clicks from Google. But look, zero-click marketing is when people go to Google or a search engine or an OpenAI or a generative AI engine and they get their result and they don't need to click anything. They just get the answer they want. That's called good for the customer. And anything that's good for the customer is good for the industry, right? Um, Actually, I liked what Thomas was saying earlier about that long arc of history of how things have changed. Whenever it gets easier for people to search and discover travel, we see more spending in travel. Before you had to go through brochures, you had to call my beloved travel agents. That was a lot of friction. Google made it super easy to discover stuff, but you had to go through those links. I get anxiety just looking at all those tabs. Zero-click is great. I don't see it as an existential threat to the industry. I think the transaction's still happening. The marketing spend still has to happen. It's just a question of where that marketing spend goes.
Thomas, 2 minutes.
I mean, it's certainly an existential threat because if you go to google.com and you search best hotel that's kid friendly in Paris, it'll show you the same setup that it has for the last 5 years. There's no AI summary at the back. That's because the OTAs pay $20 billion a year to Google for marketing. If Google thought it was truly a better experience, they would turn on those AI summaries. But the reality is, when you turn on AI summaries, essentially paid clicks go down 70%, 70 to 80%, like instantaneously. AKA, that is an existential threat to the idea of a historical Google search engine with 10 blue links. Like, it is antithetical to how the industry is structured today. If you are an OTA, the muscle that you have built, the reason that you exist is you are essentially paid advertising arbitrage and against the long tail of demand. Like, I only pay a few bucks for someone searching for that very specific query for a family-friendly hotel in Paris in this specific region or XYZ, and then you get a high intent booking on the long tail and make that money. If clicks go away, like, that's the entire DNA of Booking, Expedia, any of these businesses. They are not prepared for an answer world. I don't know. I don't know what else to add on that, but
Moderator, can I respond?
You may.
There's an interesting trend happening, though, where AI is being increasingly monetized, and we're going to start to see advertisements inserted within AI search results.
Oh, yeah.
And I wonder if zero-click actually, the real existential threat is not zero-click, it's zero revenue. It's, zero ability to spend your advertising dollars for arbitrage. Maybe there's a world where, as we see more ad load in those results, zero-click becomes easier, but it still is a way for the OTA marketing arbitrage machine to.
I think it empowers the suppliers more than it empowers the OTAs. And I think the shorthand fallacy that you can fall into when you think about, like, super cycles and how you change economics through, like, big shifts
We'll
is
allow it.
that
Continue.
the dollars in the ecosystem don't have to stay the same when you go from offline to internet or internet to mobile or mobile to AI. Often technology like this disrupts it and completely changes the mix of how that dollars show up. And those dollars could just decline, and dollars go back to the supplier, or demand, or dollars go to the top of the funnel who controls it, aka ChatGPT or Gemini.
All right, next question. We're going to start with you first this time. Are we overestimating how fast consumers will let AI book travel for them?
We're way underestimating it. I mean, I understand. I have that same fear of like, oh, if OpenAI turns on the ability to book the Marriott Marquis down the road, like what happens if something goes wrong? What happens if there's an issue? What happens if my credit card data gets stolen? Like those are all legitimate concerns. But the reality is that human trust is a funny thing. The first time it happens, oh, it's okay. And then you normalize it, and then all of a sudden you're using it all the time. Think about Waymo. I don't know how many people here have taken a Waymo, or like maybe the one person in the world who's actually taken a robotaxi from Tesla because it's not a real product yet. The first time you get in a Waymo, you're like, you have all this apprehension of like, oh, like this is going to be dangerous. First time I got in a Waymo, I had that for the first 5 minutes. It was cool, and then I was immediately looking at my phone. The same I would be in an Uber. Like that trust, as soon as it happens and it's okay, it becomes normalized and you start taking it all the time. Or you'll start trusting ChatGPT to book a hotel room for you the first time it happens and there's not an issue. Like trust is, as we go through this like cycle, like as it happens, it looks like it's not really increasing. But the more people that use it, the more it turns out okay, then you start to see this like exponential curve of penetration. And we've seen that in every technological revolution in the last 100 years. And human mind is not very good at calculating exponential curves of penetration because it's just not how humans think. But we're going to get there, and we're going to get there a lot faster than I think any of us appreciate.
Seth, what do you think?
So I really appreciate what you're saying about trust. Once it works for you, once it really starts to work really well. I guess I question, though, I don't fully agree, and I question because there's, oh, maybe I'm not entirely right here, but, well, I take a lot of taxis. I'm going to admit it, okay? I Uber and I Lyft a lot more than my budget would like that I do. I take a lot of lifts. I take them, multiple times, and each trip is kind of the same. I'm sort of going from point A to point B. I got to get there. I want a time. Maybe the airport trip's a little bit different. But if a Lyft messes up or an Uber messes up, and by the way, they do mess up. Anyone who's ever been waiting for like 30 minutes in an airport knows they mess up. It's okay. There's another chance to take a cab wait, and it wasn't the end of the world. No big deal. I think travel is always going to have to be a super highly considered purchase. The number one key constraint is vacation days. The average American has like a dozen vacation days. They take one trip a year. It costs them like 5% of their income. And if they book and they get a bad experience, they don't get to just, oh, next time I'm in JFK, I'll do something a little different. They have to wait till next year. So I think the first time it happens, that trust is there, but also the first time it messes up, that trust is broken. And so I think that that's a really delicate balance that we have to think about. AI for inspiration, for search, and even for executing like the minor stuff, definitely. And I talked about that in my presentation. But the kind of Jarvis book me a trip, I think it's a very high expectation of trust that consumers will have to place in it. And I think it'll take longer for that to happen than we realize. Maybe for the business traveler who's going to London every single week, sure. But for the family of four with a really unique trip, it's hard to place that trust in an AI.
I just point out the Waymo has like 30% market share in San Francisco, and like if that screws up, I might die. If I have an issue with booking my hotel, like, it's fine.
And when the AI
sucks,
flies the
but
plane, well, whatever.
yeah.
All right, next question. Will independent hotels finally be able to go direct to consumer now?
Yes. I mean, I think for a number of reasons. One is that if you think about like the point of AI, like the goal is to get you a better answer and the optimal answer. Now, maybe based on your personalization and your ideas, like maybe that is booking through Booking because you like the brand or you're loyal or you get some point systems. Maybe the reality is that you are better off booking direct through a hotel for a number of reasons. Now, historically, like to be fair, if you're an independent hotel owner or operator here, like your technology stack's probably pretty garbage, and it like has not enabled you to make customized offers in the past. Now, whether there is another solution or the reality of what's in development now, like MCP, Model Context Protocol servers out there, there is the easy, low-hanging fruit and ability for every hotel out there to essentially let all of their inventory, pricing, data, customization be displayed to AI and to every consumer globally. Now, you think about booking, like it's an old-fashioned database that has all these little columns and rows, and like your hotel has to fit into that, and so you can't really be creative in offers. You can't really be creative in how you describe your hotel. With a customized MCP server, you can, like, the sky's the limit in terms of, oh, we could add a bike tour on, or we could include breakfast, or we can include breakfast and lunch, or do any number of things. You're not limited by what it fits within the metadata for a booking.com or an Expedia. If you do that, the logical conclusion is that that is a better outcome for consumers because they will get better pricing, better customization, better information. Like you can expose, okay, this room has a view of the Eiffel Tower, but it's like partially blocked. This one has a full 100% view. That's information that you can expose to consumers that you can't possibly really do through booking.com. Perfect timing.
That was great timing.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
What do
So
you think?
the question was independent hotels going direct?
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, here's theoretically, yes. Here's my core issue with this is that with the internet, they've had the ability to go direct for 30 years now. And it hasn't fully happened yet after 30 years. So we're going to get this new internet, this new layer of search, discovery, these artificially intelligent things. And yet, even after 30 years of internet, after Google totally revamping how it does hotels, making it easy for independent hotels, after all of these tech vendors, independents still really struggle to go direct. I think that there are just some functional constraints. And I think when we picture an independent hotel, we are picturing, dream of it. Close your eyes, dream of the independent hotel. It's this beautiful, boutique place, and they take care of you. But so many of them are not that. They don't have that technical expertise. They don't have the time. They're busy taking care of guests. They're maybe in a small market. They're almost certainly understaffed. They're barely turning a profit. The tools have been there for the truly great, distinguished luxury independents to go direct, and they do go direct. For everyone else, it's been a challenge, and AI can make some things easier, and it will, whether you are right or whether I am right about what happens to OTAs, whether the aggregation level becomes an OTA or an AI or whatever, there probably has to be some sort of aggregation level at some point. And I guess pity the poor independent hotelier who's always paying a commission or a cut to someone, whether it's a tech vendor or OpenAI or Google or Booking or all the above.
Yeah.
So I think that there's just structural issues there that will continue to make it hard for independent hotels to go direct. As much as I know many people in this room are working to make it happen, it's a slog.
Any independent hoteliers in the room?
All right, some.
Yeah,
Or
you.
tech vendors
I
that
mean,
work.
I think if you think about the technology shifts, like the change from non-internet to AI, it's more of a step function change. So like we haven't seen a big increase in direct rates because just how the ecosystem is set up, there's kind of a natural cap. But going from offline, like 30% direct, to today 50% direct, like AI will be higher than that due to the customization and the ability for hotels to expose information. Like, will it go to 60%? Will it go to 80%? Will it go to 100%? Probably not. But like any change of that step function in direct has a huge impact on supplier bottom lines and on OTA margins.
Thomas, how much of that step function increase, because I don't disagree with you, but how much of that function increase was actual independent hotels getting more direct versus the brands growing, building these loyalty programs, creating these soft franchise agreements and ways for independent hoteliers to enter these branded ecosystems? Because I feel like a lot of the growth of direct traffic has been a function of the big hotel brands finally learning, not finally, but in the last decade, learning how to really digitally market with loyalty, with Google, with Super Bowl ads.
Yeah, I think that's true for the mega brands of like the slow increase over time. Before the independents, where it's like before in order to book direct, you had to like call them up on the phone.
Yeah.
Like, or you just go through a travel agent because that's the only way you know how to book a hotel in Paris when you live in New York City. Then you had the ability of like, okay, like every hotel eventually has a website that I can book through. So like I'll utilize that. Like it's a much easier way to go direct. AI provides just an easier path, even more so than the internet or mobile had alone, for consumers to go direct. And if that is a better experience, if there is better pricing, if there is better information via going direct, like that is the path of least resistance.
All right, this is gonna be our last question, then we're gonna do a lightning round. Will vibe coding really have a material impact on travel industry innovation? Seth, you first, 2 minutes.
Yes, that's a mega trend. I gotta say yes, but I believe it. I genuinely believe it. I think that there's a lot of reasons why. It's really not necessarily like vibe coded in terms of just giving more of people the ability to program without a computer science degree, to have the ability to build technology. It's meaningful. I think that one, it makes it easier to create startups, to create innovation, to bring new capabilities online. Just having more and more tech providers out there is, I think, generally a good thing for travel industry. So there's the startup piece of it, which is that it's easier than ever to make a startup. It's easier ever to code a startup, and there's a lot of people who, might want to do that. Second, forget the startups. Forget about them. Think about the big companies. They have a huge amount of overhead, a huge amount of technical staff, and quite frankly, some of them have fairly slow development cycles. I think vibe coding could potentially or some of these AI tools that enable vibe coding could speed up these production cycles, lower overhead, create more turns and more production cycles at these larger companies. And then I think a bigger point, and this is hard to quantify, and I don't know how true this actually is, but I'll say it anyways. I think that, traditionally when you think of hotel, there's a big element, or travel, I won't say hotel, airlines too, experiences too, destinations too. There's a big element of taste, curation, style, coolness, dare I say. And I don't want to trade in stereotypes, but, those kind of cool tastemakers were typically not, computer software engineers. They had these ideas and these visions, and they knew how to build this great food and beverage and these great hotel rooms. Now they potentially have the ability to build the apps and the technology and the digital that goes with it all. Now, will they build incredible apps to the scale of a Berkeley engineer? Absolutely not. But can they take this and show this to a Berkeley engineer and say, "Here's what I've done. Take this over the finish line"? I don't know. So I'm done. You get my.
I think my answer is it depends. If you are a startup or you're trying to have a business that goes after the demand pool, the reality is that like centralization of demand and eyeballs has only increased over time. So now you have to compete versus OpenAI versus Gemini versus Google versus an OTA. If you're starting up a business that's going after demand or direct to consumers, like I tried this. There's certainly like there's the ability for tools to be created. I like when we travel at work
And I think
over.
we have a slide of what you tried, by the way. There we go.
Now there's 40,000 employees combined at Booking and Expedia. And in the last decade, the UI hasn't changed. There's no toggle to like say, I only want to book for lie flat seats. Like, I don't know what they're doing at both of those two companies. But the reality is like in a day and a half, I was able to use the Amadeus self-serve API and Claude Code and essentially create an entire website that only finds me lie flat seats, flights with lie flat seats. Like, but the reality is, am I going to be able to monetize this? Is this a startup? Is this a business? Like, no. It is a no, but it's a hobby. Like the proliferation of hobbies on the demand side and customizations and cool things like that'll go through the roof. You go on Twitter, there's all these guys coding something and it gets $1 million in revenue. It's not going to be the size of Booking or something like that. So it lowers the bar. You can create cool things. Does it stand the test against these big demand aggregators or the big locations of the 800 million weekly average users that using ChatGPT? No. Where it is exciting though, I think, is like if you're trying to solve a problem on complexity in physical reality or complexity on software side for a hotel, whether it's the PMS or the CRS or robots for housekeeping, like those are cool things where like you can create a small business, small startup, really done.
Okay, so now we're gonna play Dead or Alive. I didn't prep you for this, but
fine.
this is easy.
All dead?
There you only get one answer, dead or alive. Ready? All right, TripAdvisor.
Dead.
Dead.
The so-called hidden gems.
Dead.
Dead.
Resort fees.
Alive.
Alive. Yeah. Can't kill that.
NATO.
Alive.
Alive.
And the US passport.
Alive.
Alive.
All right. Thank you both. Awesome. Thank you.